Hello Amber, we've got the transmission out of your 93 F350 7.3 liter. This is what it looks like when it's all apart. I'll go over some things that we found on the inside of the transmission with you, and Eric or Amanda will contact you with the cost estimates. So we'll start with the pan. If we look inside the pan, you can see this black stuff here. This is all going to be clutch or band material. There's little piles of it up in here as well, but the magnet, I'll zoom in on that, quite a bit of metal on top of the magnet. So if we look here, this is way too much material for a transmission that's just been done recently. So you can see the volume of metal that's on top of there. And the color of the oil, you can see, is not red. It's kind of been gotten too hot. I don't have the torque converter on this video, but we did take a picture, and we'll have already showed the picture. The torque converter clutch was slipping badly. That's evident in the picture. When we look at the pump, one thing of note on the pump, so we can look at these rough forge numbers on the pump. You see how it says F9 TP, and then there's a part number there. This is the early style pump, and it's a low volume pump, and it's technically the correct pump for this application, but the size of the gears on this pump, so the pocket on the 95 and up style is larger, so we got way more volume on the pump itself. When we're doing a recondition, we always replace this old style with a 95 and up style, the F5 pump, because it's a much better pump. It overcomes some of the leaks that can cause delayed engagements that these earlier pumps have. Excuse me. On the stator support, this is just going to be the cover for the pump. One thing I want to talk about is one of the modifications that we do to help with that torque converter clutch slippage is we basically, there's a hole down where my finger is. We pretty much plug that hole, and then we join this passage. So we drill a hole right down here, and what we're doing is connecting this passage to the passage that goes in here, and that ends up with a torque converter clutch that will come on much quicker and be able to clamp on much better as well. So it's a modification we've been doing for years that really does work well in helping keep these converters alive. This is our overdrive clutch that comes on for fourth gear. So if we look at this material here, that's pretty much what the clutch should look like, but when we go over here, you see how it's blackened, and then this steel plate has gotten so hot that it's turned blue. The back side of that disc also is going to be black, and that's obviously what it should look like there. So we know that the overdrive clutch has been slipping. Another modification we would typically do on a diesel is later on they went to 3 clutches instead of only 2 here, so the thickness of this plate, if we put in a thinner plate that they would have come with later on, then instead of having only 2 of these friction surfaces, we're able to fit a third one in there, which basically makes this clutch a lot stronger without doing anything else. The low reverse clutch is going to come on for first gear holdback coming down a hill and reverse. It looks fine. It's a uniform color. It's a dark brown lining, but uniform color here, and the steel plate's a uniform color as well. This is the forward clutch. It comes on for all the forward gears. Same thing, uniform color here. The steels look fine. There are some hot spots on the pressure plate, so you can see one there, one there. That's from previous damage, but it's no big deal, so it's not considered that it's ineffective to work. This one is our high reverse clutch. This comes on for third gear and also for reverse. Same thing, this has got a smooth lining, but the lining itself looks fine, and the steel plates look fine as well. We typically are going to use a waffle style, so if you look at this clutch beside it, you can see all the lines in there. If we replace that with this waffle style, then what we end up with is a crisper shift and just better performance that way, just feels better. This is a Sprague. It's a one-way clutch, and there's peanut-shaped elements here. You can see where my finger is. That's a peanut-shaped element. It's designed to allow a race to turn one way but lock the other. And the camera's probably not going to pick it up, but the down where my thumb is, they have a wear line that kind of shows us how this element is wearing. And These elements look to me like they're worn out. Like I would not normally reuse this piece because that line we usually allow it to be about a 32nd of an inch wide, and this looks more like at least a 16th, maybe even an 1/8. But I'm going to consider that piece worn out. Even though this transmission was just rebuilt 5,000 kilometers ago or so, they probably should have replaced this piece, is the way I see it. This one is our intermediate clutch, comes on for second gear. We have uniform colors, no slippage there, that one looks fine. Same thing with our overrun clutch. So this is just going to come on for hold back in third, second, and first. That one looks fine as well. This is the band that's for hold back in second. Tiny bit of slippage there, but not bad. This will be our front planetary. It looks okay. We have to clean everything up, of course, and make sure everything is good. This is our overdrive sun gear. It's going to sit inside of the overdrive planetary. One thing I don't like about the overdrive planetary is the color of it. This normally would be a plain steel color that would be pretty much like this color here, but if we look at them, kind of looks like it's gotten hot, where this is kind of a brownish tinge, and these gears have a bit of a black hue to them, so it makes me a little bit worried about whether or not this piece has gotten too hot. When we look at, this is our overdrive sprag, and it has the wear characteristics I was talking about on the elements. After 94, I think it was, they upgraded this from a sprag to a roller clutch, so this one is prone to failure. And when we look at the race that goes inside of it, this camera may not pick it up very well, but there's lines that go across it like that. We call those chatter marks. So you can just see them in the camera. The chatter marks come from the clutch slipping. So this is a one-way clutch that basically, when this piece goes in there, it makes it so that this piece can turn this way but locks this way. And they're prone to having problems. There's a modification we can do if we have to reuse it, but if we're doing a recondition, we would normally replace that with the updated style. But like I said, the problem with this one is it's been chattering, and that sprag also should have been changed as well, at the very least, or upgraded to the later design. Our rear planetary looks okay. The center support would be here. This has been upgraded a little bit. There's this area here has been machined, and they've put a snap ring underneath there, and that's to help with some wear issues that they have. So it's a good thing to do. We would normally do that, and this one has already been done. This is just our sun gear and sun gear shell. It looks fine as well. We have to check the bushings, like that bronze thing there's a bushing. We have to check the fit of the bushing still. Normally we're going to clean it up to do that stuff, but that I think is about what we found on the inside of the transmission. As I said, Eric or Amanda will contact you with the cost estimates, but now you know what the inside looks like. Thanks. Hi Amber again. One thing I did forget to talk about was the solenoid pack. So this solenoid pack is going to house your pressure control solenoid. So that's your pressure control solenoid there. And then these are different shift solenoids. So if we're doing a recondition, we normally replace this solenoid. They are a little prone to wear. This one has been replaced. Like, this was probably done when the transmission was done. So if we don't replace it, it's not going to be the one that came from the vehicle back in '93. There are other modifications and things we do to the valve body. This is an accumulator body. This valve train right here is going to be our line modulator valve. And when we have a unit that shifts a little soft, a lot of times what we like to do is just change this valve to a larger diameter, and it changes the shift feel. So it's something that we're probably not going to do on a repair, but on a recondition we most likely would do that as well. And I was talking about the sprag, and inside here we've got a valve, a coast clutch valve, that if we don't replace the sprag, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll block this valve into the stroke position. So there's a valve inside here that when you hit the button on the end of the shift lever, or if it's on the dash, what happens is this valve moves over like that, and it doesn't hurt anything if we take it and we block it over. And what that does is it causes this set of frictions to come on. This is going to be our coast clutch, and those frictions are going to wrap around this drum, which that overdrive sprag is inside of it. So effectively what we're doing is we're making it so that this sprag doesn't actually have to hold. So it's a modification. We've been doing that for years. The one side effect that we sometimes have is a small downshift bump when you're coasting off a highway, but again, that's from this moving over when it normally would wait until you actually hit that button, but it's a durability upgrade that we do normally recommend as well. So I think that's all I can think of. So as I said, Eric or Amanda will be contacting you. Thanks.